Tennessee River flows through Decatur and Morgan County's history, connecting us to our roots, while also guiding us to new destinations. A life-sustaining artery that courses through stories of birth, hope, death, faith, and life. It is the river of memories that carries in its currents unique stories of people, places, and events that shape and define who we are today. It is amazing to consider that the Native American heritage of the area dates to a minimum of 15,000 years ago. Native tribes from more recent past call the river Hohogi, or River of the Cherokees. Alabama became a state on December 14, 1819, and less than 1 year later, the Articles of Incorporation for the Decatur Land Company were recorded on June 16, 1820. The small village had begun informally referring to itself as Decatur, following the death of Commodore Stephen Decatur, who was killed in a duel. Official incorporation as Decatur would take place in the Alabama legislature on December 8, 1826. The county's first seat of government was located at Summerville, where many of our county's earliest leaders resided. One of the first important events to lift Decatur from relative obscurity to a place of prominence in the state was the decision to build a branch of the Alabama State Bank in Decatur. Opening on July 29, 1833, the old state bank has weathered financial ruin, war, and neglect, and is a proud reminder of the faith and optimism expressed by the area's early leaders in the future of Decatur and Morgan County. Attempts to bypass the navigational challenges presented by the nearby shoals would also spur the development of an iron river. During the 1830s, the Tuscumbia, Cortland, and Decatur Railroad, which later became the Memphis and Charleston line, would be completed through Decatur. A second rail line, running north to south, was organized as the Nashville and Decatur Railroad, and a railroad bridge was also built across the river. The town's emergence as an important transportation crossroads would bolster the status of the area, but would place the town in a vulnerable position when the Civil War erupted. In an ironic twist of history, Tennessee Valley representatives voted predominantly against secession at the state convention held in January 1861 after Lincoln's election. Yet when the war broke out, North Alabama would be the first section of the state to feel the effects of the war.
Now when I give you a direct order, I expect you to carry out the direct order. Do you understand me, boy?
With the town's strategic location, Decatur would become a crossroads of conflict during the war. 1864 was a critical year when citizens that were still in the town were ordered to evacuate, and most of the town's remaining buildings were destroyed. During the October 1864 Battle for Decatur, General John Hood described the town as being a hard nut to crack. When the war ended, the town was in shambles. Homes, businesses, churches, and transportation lines were memories of the past. Like towns across the South, Decatur and Morgan County faced the difficult task of rebuilding after the war. The important transportation systems were slowly rebuilt, and new towns such as Hartselle and Falkville emerged as important railroad and lumber centers. In 1887, the Decatur Land Improvement and Furnace Company was organized and featured New Decatur as a planned industrial city. Industry boomed in the area, with at least 39 different enterprises dating from this time. The twin cities of Decatur and New Decatur were actively promoted as the new Chicago of the South. During these legendary days of the riverboat, Decatur continued its role as an important point for the shipping of cotton. In 1892, the county seat was moved from Summerville to Decatur, and in the early years of the 20th century, a land company brochure advertised that with miles and miles of cement and brick sidewalks, churches, schools, YMCA, public library, electric lights, gas, pure filtered water, streetcars, theaters, parks, and boating, the Decaturs are truly an ideal place to live. Efforts to bring culture and education to Morgan County continued as the area grew. A Carnegie Library was established in Decatur in 1904, and there was an emphasis on creating quality schools, such as the 1916 F.E. Burleson School in Hartselle for area students. In 1912, there were still 2 Decaturs. A newspaper known then as the Decatur's Daily was launched under the leadership of W.R. Shelton. In 1916, the town of New Decatur would change its name to Albany in an effort to reduce friction between the twin cities. Leaders from both towns had urged unification for some time, but it would not be until 1927 when the two would merge as one. In 1919, the renovation of a former livery stable into a theater billed it as one of the prettiest in the South. Now known as the Princess, the theater would later be remodeled into the Art Deco style in 1939 and provided a center of escape and entertainment for the town's residents. When the Great Depression struck, Decatur's leaders were forced to face problems and find new solutions. Decatur was hard hit, with major employers such as the L&N rail shops closing their doors. In an effort to combat the economic ills of the times, a Chamber of Commerce was formed under the leadership of Barrett C. Shelton Sr. The group worked with the government, particularly the Tennessee Valley Authority, to bring changes to the area and stimulate the local economy. In this turbulent decade, worldwide attention was thrust upon Decatur when the Scottsboro Boys trial was moved to the Morgan County Courthouse. Viewed as one of the most important trials of the 20th century, the trial led to a landmark Supreme Court decision, interpreting that the guarantee of an individual's right to a trial by a jury of one's peers meant that blacks could no longer be excluded from jury duty. A nation called to war would help lift Decatur and America out of the Great Depression. When World War II erupted, Decatur responded to the call, sending troops, training soldiers, and making contributions to the defense efforts. A pioneering welding technique for ships with welded hulls was introduced at Ingalls Shipbuilding Yard. In the 1950s, Decatur's river access again helped to bring important new industries such as Chemstrand to the area. New residents from other places in the country relocated to the River City, and the town grew again. And new residential and retail areas in southwest Decatur began to grow. Through the efforts of Mayor Gilmer Blackburn, formal plans to capitalize on the recreation potential of the river by building Point Mallard Park were approved in 1968, and America's first wave pool would be proudly promoted and developed into a facility that continues to serve as one of our city's major tourist destinations. In the 1980s, there was a renewed emphasis on preserving the area's heritage. The historic neighborhoods of Old Decatur and Albany, and later the historic downtown districts, would be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. History defines the deepest and most meaning perception of a place. It puts the home in hometown and helps us to recall the main streets of our memories. We float today on a river of memories, a vein of life linking the past, present, and the future. It courses through the memories of our past and the hopes and dreams of our future.